My name is Michelle Irwin and I'm back in the north of England for another episode of Retail Media Thursdays. This week we meet with James Allison and Alison Dunham from Advertima. James, Ali, welcome to Retail Media Thursdays.
Thank you, thanks for having us.
No, Thank you for having me in Leeds.
Really appreciate you inviting us on.
No, we're excited for you to be here. So do you want to both introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about Advertima?
Go on, you go first.
Yeah, for sure. James Allison. So I'm a Director of Market Development. My main kind of area is continental Europe, so kind of outside of the UK. I'm working directly with retailers and partners in retail media, but I still also work with some of the UK-based retailers as well. Well, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so I'm Senior Director of Market Development at Advertima. Pretty similar role to James, just my focus is more around the UK and Ireland and also Australia. My background, I've worked in retail media for quite some time, so because of my knowledge and contacts within the UK, that's my main focus. So not quite as glamorous as continental.
But a lot of experience. Do you want to just explain for anybody who's not familiar with Advertima what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So Advertima is revolutionising in-store media, and what we're essentially doing is making in-store shoppers addressable. So similar to how over the last kind of 5 years, decade, you've had ad tech platforms like Criteo and Citrus online. We're kind of creating a layer of ad tech in store so that those shoppers are addressable in real time. Ads can be targeted to a group of shoppers, and also that you can get measurement from those ads, so everyone, the shopper, the retailer, and the advertiser benefits.
Which pub are we in today, and why did you choose it?
So we're in the Head of Steam. It's an independent chain. Actually, it was owned by Leeds Brewery, so very Leeds-based.
Quite a nice vibe. It's got that pub feel without it being too much of a pub, because James likes his old men's pubs. I like something a little bit more, so
A little bit flashy. It's a balance between what we're both interested in terms of pubs.
So let's get into the retail media side of things.
Yes.
Ali, you said yourself just then that you've worked in retail media for a long time. I guess in terms of the in-store world, it's changed a lot in that time. So it'd be good to hear more from you about that evolution and what we think about the digitization of in-store media.
So retail media, a lot of people just think of it as online, and I find that quite frustrating because it's not. I joined retail media 12 years ago, and actually online was an add-on, and it was selling the shopper journey throughout the store. So I feel recently, in store, even though it's so powerful, because putting aside your online pure plays, so not talking about Ocado or Amazon, most certainly in the UK, most of the shoppers still shop in store, and for me it's quite a discovering experience. How many of us go in store for one thing and we come out with 20? We're in that mindset where you can be influenced more, but for me the in-store media hasn't really gone to the speed that it could have. It's all been about online. However, it is changing. And you do hear now the next big wave of retail media is in store. It's all about in the store.
I know when I've been speaking to retailers and when I've heard them at events over the last few months, there is a lot of ambition to do more of this digitization in store. What are the challenges that they're facing? Like, why are more retailers not doing with it?
I think initially there is a cost. So straight away they will think, oh, okay, I've got to install screens. And then they do damage, and then there's the power and that. However, I think what they don't also think about the cost of cardboard POS, how much wastage. And I don't just mean wastage that when the promotion's finished and they throw it away. I mean wastage in terms of the actual advertising capability, because you're very restricted in store with space. You're only allowed certain pieces of POS down one aisle. So you've got only one advertiser in that space, generally for 3 weeks. Now, if that product is not relevant to you or me, that's complete wastage. So wastage isn't physically just throwing it away. It's about what it's being used for.
James, are you seeing any other challenges in terms of digitization of stores?
For sure. I think I'll probably look at it from the point of view of the challenges for brands that currently exist. brands, and kind of Ali touched upon it in terms of the journey and the change in retail media. Brands can get really transparent media plans online, so they can buy their digital media plan and essentially get a return on ad spend. And therefore the media is addressable to both the customer, but also is transparent to the advertiser. At the moment, in the current world, where you have, again, physical point of sale, you have even digital screens that are on an ad loop play, all of that kind of isn't giving the brands the same transparency in terms of ad spend, in terms of delivery of ads, in terms of ad efficiency. So that's a real challenge, because brands really are more and more wanting to see what return they're getting, not just return on the actual ad spend, but what metrics, what customers and shoppers are seeing these ads. How long are they looking at potentially these ads in terms of that addressability? So that's the gap that's been missing, and that's the challenge that has been missing. With technology like what we are kind of championing in Advertima, it's about changing that, bridging that gap. So it's about making in-store media addressable. It's about adding that kind of layer of reporting, that layer of kind of ad effectiveness, relevancy, which Ali has talked about. And therefore that can really support the challenge which brands are having at the moment. And then from all kind of media, both online and in-store, you can now get a full holistic view of how has your media performed, who is it being targeted to. You can target it to the same audience sectors. And then, ultimately, how is that driving my bottom line in terms of sales? So that's the challenge and maybe the solution.
Yeah, I think to revolutionise in-store media, it has to integrate technology. You're not going to move anywhere if you continue with static POS. So I think the retailers have to embrace technology. Then you'll become that omnichannel, because that's what it's moving to as well, because shoppers shop so differently now. You're not just an in-store shopper or an online shopper, you're both. So it's so fragmented at the moment. So do retailers really know their shoppers? How can they? Yes, they probably do with their online platforms, but how do they really know their shopper in store? Because with credit card data can only give you so much information. Plus that's at the end of your shopping journey. So you can only influence maybe when they're at home, or offers through the loyalty card. Through the actual shopper journey, then still it's difficult to influence. And I think that's where retailers need to get better.
So you just said the L word,
Yes.
loyalty cards. They've been around forever, and I know a lot of retailers still, though, are looking at how they can kind of build these schemes, implement them, even some of them for the first time at the moment. That wealth of first-party data is so valuable to them. What are the challenges with loyalty schemes? Like, is that going to be the future? Are there any alternatives to loyalty schemes that retailers should be thinking about?
So whilst they may have so many sign-ups, who's actually using it? But actually, that sign-ups is giving them the data. So for a retailer to have a huge amount of sign-ups, that's the data, the first-party data everyone's talking about. I think customers need to get a little bit wiser of data that they're sharing, because how many of us sign up to programs and platforms and we'll fill out our data and don't really think anything about it. But then when you start talking about other ways of targeting customers, everyone's like, oh, that's a bit scary. But then you need that data to be able to give that better customer experience. And at the moment, that's the way the retailers are doing it. They're using their loyalty data to understand their customers, to then give a better shopper experience. But it's always, for me, it's afterwards, after their transaction. So you know what they've bought, this is the offer that you can get the next time on your shop.
Thinking about it from an industry perspective, I have worked in a role previously where we used the loyalty data to create kind of models for the retailer, to help the retailer kind of retain their shoppers and to help them upsell to their shoppers. So they would kind of look at profiles of customers and their habits, their shopping journeys, their frequency of shop, and also the amount per basket, and also types of products they would spend. So for example, if they wanted to upsell a customer from a customer who would buy a £7 bottle of wine to a £10 bottle of wine, you could actually do that through certain models and algorithms based on the loyalty data. So in terms of some of that real kind of like a kind of CRM, targeted marketing, which isn't certainly a new method, it's really super important. going back to kind of the retail media thing, of course, those shoppers who aren't swiping at all or not using loyalty, you've got to find a way to address those shoppers in terms of media, and you can do that both on-site, online, off-site when a customer's on their way to a supermarket, but also in-store. And going back to our piece, it's about how can you address those shoppers and get a really a good understanding of the types of shoppers that are in front of a media screen or in front of a point of sale in store. And that's kind of the real challenge, and that's the real exciting part is how do you do that when they're not using loyalty cards?
Yeah.
And that's something that, again, we're very much doing in Advertima is addressing shoppers in real time in store.
Yeah, it's an exciting value prop for the retailers who are able to do that.
Yeah, so you don't have to sort of swipe yourself in, you don't have to log on to an app, you don't have to basically do anything, but it's still going to track me as a shopper without that personal information.
Yeah. So we touched on another topic earlier around this holy grail of in-store and online connectivity, and for brands to be able to understand and for retailers to be able to demonstrate that kind of complete value across the whole customer journey and manage that engagement. What's your take on this? Like, how are you facilitating this, or how are you connecting what you do at Advertima with the in-store world to the online?
What we simply do is focus on taking a segment, a predefined segment from the retailer or brand, and then load that segment into essentially the activation and media in store. So then that same segment has been kind of pre-planned online, and then the creative is going out to the same segment. So essentially what you've now got is, if I'm a Gen Z male and I'm, and there's Coca-Cola about to kind of promote to me, whether I'm on a particular groceries website, on the app, or in store, if that segment has been targeted to me, I'm now getting exposed to that ad on the journey of the shop. So that's kind of the gap that we're bridging. It's a really simple kind of methodology and activation, but it's only possible with computer vision and AI technology and machine learning that we've our company's been building for years now. So yeah.
Yeah, it just gives the brands opportunity to reach as many segments as possible during that day, whereas before, with, like I mentioned, static POS, it's just there for that promotion period. Whereas with AI, it's just better use of that inventory. It's a better experience for the shopper because they're seeing relevant ads, and it's allowing that brand to reach as many of their target audience. It's bringing those online capabilities, but also a better customer experience.
I think what's also really important is if you think about the various different budgets in retail or retail media shopper marketing, there are your trade marketing budgets, your shopper marketing budgets, and then there's your brand and media budgets. Now it's really kind of, again, digital.com and ad tech has enabled the retailer to access all of those different kinds of budgets, but that's been a challenge in store. So again, by creating this audience-based activation and segmentation in store, you can then use that audience data. Essentially, that then is biddable, so that can then be bought programmatically. That can be bought directly by media agencies who are familiar with buying segments for digital media, not necessarily retail even. And then, of course, it's still very much accessible direct to shoppers and brands, and giving them a better proposition. So essentially, it opens up that connectivity, the pipeline, so to speak, to all different budgets, and therefore can improve and give an opportunity to the retailer to really expand that revenue. And also for the brand, it gives them an opportunity to, just like Ali was saying, is put that kind of message in front of more kind of eyeballs, essentially, and make that a better proposition. So yeah,
it's so important to have that personalized and customized experience across all of the channels, that consistent one message that they see everywhere.
Absolutely.
The way you guys are talking, it kind of takes me back to watching iRobot, when Will Smith walks into the shop and they're like, hey, whatever his name was. I think when I first watched that, I was kind of freaked out. I was like, oh, is that the future? Like, that's kind of scary. What implications does everything we're talking about here have on privacy? And are consumers going to be open to it? Like, are we all going to get freaked out by it?
So our technology, like I say, would not identify me as Ali, it would identify me as a female within a certain age bracket. That would then put me in a certain age audience segment, so Gen X, and then that will bring up the relevant ads for me. We can't, we're not allowed to, and we wouldn't want to, because you just can't take that personal information. Whereas if you think about when you log on to a website or you join a platform, you are given personal information. So actually what we're doing is not so intrusive, because the technology won't detect you as who you are. It will just put you in a segment, and that segment then puts you in a relevant audience segment to the relevant advertising, and then the data becomes more relevant.
Yes.
I think to build on that as well, the example you gave, if you think about a supermarket environment, it's a one-to-many medium or a one-to-more medium. So with online, it's a one-to-one medium. So it's a person in front of a screen and an ad in front of that person. So you can have a direct message if that person logs in, "Hi Ali, hi James," and that's already kind of that's already kind of the case now. If you do log into a retailer website, your name is there. In kind of a situation where a screen is potentially showing an advert in front of 7 or 8 people, how do you kind of address one single person? So you've got to be able to somehow address the audience, and understand who's in front of the screen from an audience perspective, and therefore send a relevant message to either one person or many people.
It's an exciting space. I think there's certainly a lot of developments over the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've actually just done our State of Retail Media study for next year that shows that the planned investment in-store from brands is much bigger. So certainly we're, like you say, it's the next wave of retail media is going to be an exciting time.
Definitely, and it's such the in-store environment is so powerful, because that's where everyone goes. So let's make it a powerful environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really exciting time, but also it's kind of exciting time in retail media in general. How can the various stakeholders, both the retailer, the media, the tech companies, all kind of come together to kind of harmonise and also make it super relevant for the shopper? So the whole thing, it's really exciting.
Cool. Most exciting part of the show for me is always the quick fire round.
Oh,
okay.
Which, if you saw the episode that got released last week, you'll see that we had another couple, should I say?
Right, okay.
And we did a Mr. and Mrs. quiz.
Oh, right.
So I'm gonna do that on you guys as well.
Okay. I'm not sure how our partners will think of that, but
Okay.
And we're not together, by the way.
No, yeah.
We might come across, we are a retail media husband and wife. As far as it goes.
Work, wife and husband.
Yes.
exactly, that's it.
Okay, so who is most likely to be late for a 9 a.m. meeting?
That's me, yeah.
James, definitely.
Hands up.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And who is going to be the grumpiest on a 9 a.m. meeting?
I think when I turn up to it, Ali will be the grumpiest.
Oh, because you're late.
I've had more of a lie-in, so I'm not so grumpy on it. Yeah.
You mentioned you had your Christmas party last week, or your Christmas lunch.
Yes.
Who's most likely to be the last one standing?
That's me also.
Yeah. And that's a tough question, because I'm not that far behind.
You're not,
I'm getting a little bit more sensible in my old age. So
I'm glad you said that. It's not just me that's the party animal.
No.
Who is the most likely to send an all-company email by mistake?
James.
I think, this isn't coming off very well for me, is it? I'm likely to do that. And maybe I've done it before in the past, but not recently.
And who has the most creative ideas in brainstorming sessions?
I think it's a difficult one.
I think we're quite on par, really. I think it's quite similar. Yeah. I think you're probably a little bit more technical than me, so kind of like bounce off each other. I'm a bit more of the fuzzy branding side of things, and you're tech.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think
We complement one another.
at different times, there's different players of creativity, I'd say, from both.
Perfect.
Equal in that respect.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I wish you both a very Merry Christmas for next week.
you.
Thank you so
Likewise.
much for
Merry
taking the
Christmas.
time out this week.
Cheers.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you. Cheers.